We're going to change the high limit on the 500 pressure fryer. The tools you'll need for this job is a Phillips head screwdriver. We need a 3/8 inch ratchet, and we have to have a special crow's foot, which is 11/16 inch on the end with an extension. 1 5/16 inch open-ended wrench. We need some pipe thread sealant or Teflon tape. And then, of course, our high limit, which is part number 16738. Before you begin this job, it's very important to drain the oil down to the drain pan and let the fry pot cool for a little while so we can handle the high limit without getting burned. And then also important to make sure our power is disconnected. We're going to drop our control panel up front. This one has 4 screws. Some have 2 screws and some have more of an angled or bent panel. Then I take out my control panel. It's got this little lip on the bottom on this version, and we can hook that in the lip on the front of the fryer. And to have a little bit more room inside the fryer, I'm going to disconnect the control panel. Our power is disconnected, and again, that's very critical. Remove all the plugs, and the plugs on this fryer only fit in one way. I have this ground wire, which is going to require 5/16 open-ended wrench. If you do have this ground wire, just take that nut off, slide the ground wire off, and let it hang loose. And we're going to set this aside. Okay, inside the fryer, I have my capillary tube here. That's our high limit. High limit body is mounted right on there's a bracket here on the right-hand side where our high limit body is mounted. Follow the capillary tube up to the compression fitting. It's got a pot fitting and then a capillary tube compression nut. Next, we have to loosen the tension on our capillary tube, and that's this little compression nut right where our high limit enters the fry pot wall. And take my 5/16 open-ended wrench and loosen that nut. Once I have that loosened, then I can take my ratchet with the 11/16 inch crow's foot and loosen my pot fitting. Once my pot fitting is loose, then I'm going to loosen the clamps inside the fry pot. Then I got to loosen my 2 Phillips head screws on both of the high limit clamps. And we're going to need to move our spreader bar and slide it over. Take a 5/16 open-ended wrench. We're just going to loosen that spreader and slide it over out of our way. Then I can continue to loosen my high limit clamps. Remove the bulb, and the bulb simply comes straight out. Okay, I'm going to remove the high limit And there's these two 3/8 inch nuts. Gonna loosen those. And then I can just unscrew the rest of the way by hand. Next, we take our high limit, and this is our new high limit. We want to be real careful of this capillary tube on this high limit. It's kind of fragile. If we kink it, we want to just make sure it doesn't get kinked. So I'm going to unroll it completely. Then we take our compression fitting, unroll it so we can slide our compression fitting. We have a little ferrule, little brass ferrule that came out, and then our pot fitting. Slide that back all the way. And we take our bulb and insert it. Then we can let our high limit in the front here kind of just sit there for a minute. And in the pot, we want to make just a slight bend right up by the bulb. And again, being real careful not to kink that. And then we're going to put it through our clamps. Make sure your clamp hangs from the top element. And then we're going to have about 1 inch of the high limit bulb extend on the side of that clamp. Gently snug the clamp, and you want to make sure that the high limit doesn't extend past the front of your element. Yep. On these high limit clamps, there's a wider part that grips the element, and the smaller part grips the bulb. We want to make sure, we're going to look from the top view and make sure that high limit bulb, when we're done, does not extend past the front of the heating elements. That ensures that when we drop baskets of product, that it's not going to catch. The high limit should be tight enough where you can't easily move this high limit. It stays firm on that heating element. Make a nice gentle bend at our capillary tube. And again, you don't want that cap tube to extend past the front of the heating elements there. From this side of the fryer, we're going to take our pot fitting and we're going to put our pipe thread sealant on here. It doesn't take a whole lot. We're just going to put it on just a little bit on one side here. And that's going to spread itself out as we tighten that fitting. Put that into the pot wall. I'm going to start it by hand. Once you have that pot fitting started by hand, you can take this 11/16 inch crow's foot and just kind of work it around the rest of the way. Have to keep repositioning that crow's foot on the pot fitting as we go. Now we're going to tighten this fitting. The torque spec on this, if you have a torque wrench, which would be great, is 32 inch-pounds. Then we take our compression fitting. And this is actually what's going to seal our capillary tube. We have a small brass ferrule, real small here. That's going to get pushed up by this compression fitting. When you tighten this compression fitting, just make sure you don't over tighten it. You can damage that compression or the capillary tube, and that can damage the high limit. Once I feel it start to snug, go about another quarter turn there. That ensures that we seal off our capillary tube and don't over compress it. Next part of this procedure is we have to connect the wires on our high limit. The 2 wires that came off just simply get screwed back onto the new screws that are on our high limit. Open that up. Now loosen both of our terminals. Once I have this terminal connected, I can flip this piece of protective layer over on the top there and connect this fitting underneath, and do the same with the second screw. Next, we take our bracket and we're going to take our high limit upside down and slide the little red button into that slot on the bracket. Top goes underneath, line up our holes, and we take the screws that we had earlier and we're going to screw those in from the top side down. High limit's mounted in the bracket. Then we gently place our cap tube above it. And we got to take these 2 studs on the bottom side and line up your red button. Yeah. After we get our high limit bracket mounted again, we just take the capillary tube, just route it out of the way, being careful not to touch any of the terminal leads on your coils or at your contactors. And again, be gentle with it, don't kink it. Then we're going to plug our board back in and screw it back into the fryer. And careful with your wires, put the control board back in the fryer. Being careful not to pinch any wires.